in the news is Ukraine headed for a civil war. That's the growing fear, not only in that country, but here in the U.S. and the rest of Europe as well. Wendy?
That's right. This comes at a time when a number of international leaders are questioning President Obama's lack of global leadership. George Thomas has that story.
The fragile government in Ukraine is losing control of city after city. For the first time since the crisis started last year, the country's third largest city of Odessa saw mass demonstrations for and against Russian interference.
Odessa has demonstrated yet again that this is really a Ukrainian city and that the citizens of Odessa can't be broken easily.
Over the weekend, pro-Russian activists stormed the main police headquarters, freeing some 70 prisoners. The men walked out of their cells to a hero's welcome, and people chanting, "Odessa is a Russian city." Police just stood and watched.
There is no united Ukraine anymore after what has happened here.
Ukraine's prime minister says Russia is trying to destroy his country.
And this is the part of Russian roadmap, how to grab and to eliminate Ukraine.
The violence in Odessa comes at a time when Ukraine is struggling to regain some of the cities it lost in the east to pro-Russian militants. The U.S. ambassador to Ukraine worries the situation in Odessa could be a tipping point.
I think at this point, the whole country is trying to figure out what happened, how to pull together, and how to make sure that those who are trying to divide the country will not be successful.
In Washington and in Western capitals, growing fears that Ukraine is inching closer to potential war.
Putin has successfully dismembered the Ukraine by using special forces and intelligence agents to disrupt the Ukraine. I fear now that there will be a civil war.
Graham and others in Congress believe the limited sanctions put on Russia so far have done nothing to stop Vladimir Putin's aggressive behavior.
What I would do if I were the administration, I would sanction the energy economy of Russia, the banking system of Russia, and try to drive the Russian economy into the ground, and I would help arm the Ukrainian people.
Russia has thousands of troops sitting on Ukraine's eastern border. Some, including top Democrats, are calling on the Obama administration to show more international leadership on the crisis.
The whole world looks to the United States, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in Ukraine, whether it's in Asia. There's no substitute for the United States, and my belief is that we need to be active and engaged.
George Thomas, CBN News.
Well, it'll be a terrible thing if we let that country go into the orbit of Russia and the dictatorial policy of Vladimir Putin. But our president just isn't capable of acting in a foreign policy matter. It's one thing to send 3 or 4 SEALs or 10 SEALs into a covert mission to shoot down a terrorist. There's something else to face off to a major power. It's time we do it. We could cripple Russia in a matter of a few weeks if we tried. They're not all that strong. They don't have a big, robust economy. They're totally dependent on one product, well, 2 actually, oil and gas. We could put an end to this, but we're not doing it. And Putin knows it. He's dealing with somebody who's weak, and he's playing it for all it's worth. Well, President Obama is facing another foreign policy crisis as Congress is set for a thorough investigation to find out what really happened in Benghazi. John Jessup has that story from Washington. Here's John.
Pat, a special House committee is investigating what it calls White House stonewalling on the Benghazi attacks of September 11th back in 2012. And it's issued a subpoena to Secretary of State John Kerry to testify in a hearing later this month. In a letter to Kerry, Chairman Darrell Issa said the State Department has shown a, quote, disturbing disregard for its legal obligations to Congress. Issa warned Kerry the actions could constitute a criminal offense. This comes as recently released emails show the administration withheld documents from congressional investigators. The State Department did order an independent review following the assault, and a spokesperson calls claims of stonewalling just false. Obamacare and the weak economy are hurting Democrats in the polls and likely at the box office, too. The Republicans have the biggest advantage going into this year's congressional elections in at least 2 decades, and they have the greatest lead in the generic congressional ballot in the past 20 years. A USA Today poll also finds by a margin of 65% to 30%, Americans want the next president to pursue different policies than President Obama. Pat?
Well, you know how the Republicans are. They can snatch defeat from the jaws of victory with very great ease. And the next thing you know is a whole bunch of radicals on the right begin knocking off established figures and saying, well, we're going to call on them to be responsible. And before long, the candidates the Republicans put out aren't capable of beating the Democrats. And so the Democrats laugh all the way to the well, to the ballot box and beyond. Well, in any event, it's theirs to lose right now. We'll see what happens, but it's certainly trending. The people have had enough of what's going on in Washington, and they will show their displeasure at the polls unless the Republicans screw up, which they're perfectly capable of doing. John?
Pat, Washington's top political leaders from both parties came together for the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner this weekend. Journalists joined newsmakers and celebrities to walk the red carpet. CBN News hosted Washington Redskins quarterback Kirk Cousins, along with the Burpos, the family that the hit book and movie Heaven is for Real is based on. Each year, CBN News invites newsmakers who live out their Christian faith in their work.
Whatever I'm doing, I want to make it clear that my life is built on Jesus Christ and He's the foundation of my life. So whether it's football or giving a talk or running a football camp or going back to my old high school, everything I do, I want to be able to proclaim my faith. And so just try to walk as Jesus walked, as it says in 1 John 2:6, and live out the Christian life the best I can.
I think that this movie is going to be able to reach even more people than the book has, and I welcome it.
I think God's going to use it to reach a lot of people to think about, hey, there is life after death, and this Jesus who took Colton to heaven might want to take them too if they would put Jesus in their lives. And I'm like, what a wonderful possibility.
Heaven is for Real finished #3 at the box office again this weekend with nearly $9 million, according to preliminary estimates. It's made more than $65 million in 3 weeks. And the Christian film God's Not Dead remains in the top 10 after 7 weeks of release, pulling in close to $2 million this weekend for a total of over $55 million. Actor Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., a Hollywood veteran, has died. Zimbalist gained television stardom in the 1950s and 60s. He was best known for his television work, first as a private detective on 77 Sunset Strip. That show started in 1958 and ran for 6 years. He then had a long stint as Inspector Louis Erskine on another popular primetime series, The FBI. He also appeared in other TV shows and films. He retired in recent years to his ranch in Southern California. Zimbalist died Friday at his home. His daughter Stephanie and son Ephraim said in a statement that he actively enjoyed his life to the last day. He was 95 and a strong Christian. Turning overseas, many times we hear Palestinians and their supporters refer to the West Bank and half of Jerusalem as occupied territories. They say Israel doesn't have a right to that land, but as Chris Mitchell explains, the history from one small town in Italy tells a different story. His report now from San Remo, Italy.
Former Israeli President Chaim Weizmann said this picturesque town on the Mediterranean played a crucial role in Israel's modern history.
He said that it's not an exaggeration to say that the Jewish state was born in San Remo.
Following the defeat of the Ottoman Empire in World War I, leaders of the Allied powers met in San Remo. Their goal? A new Middle East. While most of the land went to the Arab people, the Jewish people received back their ancient homeland. What happened here in San Remo in 1920 transformed the Middle East, and for the first time in nearly 2,000 years, the nations of the world recognized a Jewish homeland.
What is very important to understand is that long before the Holocaust, there was already an agreement that the Jewish people had a right to statehood, they had a right to self-determination, just like any other people groups.
2014 marks the 94th anniversary of the San Remo Resolution. Israel also recognizes San Remo as a present-day foundation in its battle for a place among the nations.
Since there is an effort today to question our legitimacy, we have to go back to San Remo and say, look, here is the international document agreed by all members of the League of Nations at the time, that says that, yes, we have this right.
And that right provides historical ammunition to fight the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement called BDS. It aims to persuade companies and countries to withdraw money and investments from Israel.
It counters the arguments of the BDS movement to say that, Israel is a colonial power. It is the opposite. Many historians would say that the San Remo resolution also was the beginning of the decolonization process, because here we have a people group that have been occupied for 1,800 years that are finally getting their recognition of statehood.
Sandel adds anyone questioning the modern state of Israel can find the answer in this Italian connection.
When we today have this whole question of, do the Jewish people really belong in Israel? Do they have a legitimate claim to the land? That question was decided once and for all in 1920 under international law here at this very place, San Remo.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, San Remo, Italy.
Pat, it's interesting how much attitudes have shifted since San Remo.
Well, you can't believe the amount of Muslim propaganda that goes on in the world. I was reading, though, in the Old Testament, the book of Chronicles, chapter 13. It's very clear where God is speaking that Canaan, the land of Canaan, has been given to the Jewish people, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, as an eternal possession. That was the feeling of what was written centuries and centuries ago. And there is no question that God has given that land. And I think any attempt by the United States and the Quartet or these other nations to take that land away will result in recriminations from God Almighty, and that's pretty serious. Now, speaking of Israel, we have a brilliant writer whose name is Erin Zimmerman. She is so good. And together with Gordon, they produced a series about Israel. And out of that has come 3 Daytime Emmy nominations, and then 2 more for Superbook, one of which is the best original film in an animated series. So I think it's pretty important that we're celebrating five Daytime Emmy nominations. John.
Pat, that's right. CBN has received 5 Daytime Emmy nominations, including 3 for its special series, as you mentioned, Made in Israel with Gordon Robertson, and 2 for its animated series, Superbook. Superbook brings the Bible to life with state-of-the-art animation and is designed to reach a younger generation. So far, it's been seen by more than 500 million people. The program was nominated for Main Title and Graphic Design and Original Song, Main Title and Promo. Made in Israel with Gordon Robertson is a 5-part series that originally aired on the 700 Club last September. It examines the breakthroughs and innovative developments and products that affect our everyday lives, from fields as varied as agriculture, medicine, and technology. The nominees are William Ellison for single camera editing, Lior Sperendeo for single camera photography, and Erin Zimmerman for special class writing. The awards will be presented at the Beverly Hilton Hotel in Beverly Hills, California on Sunday, June 22nd. And hearty congratulations to them all. Pat?
I think it's a nomination. I don't know that they've won yet. They're nominated for it.
That's right. They are nominated, but it certainly is television excellence.
Well, this is the big time. These are the best, and I might add we're an ABC fam, and this is the only Emmy nomination that ABC family, we've got 5. They don't have any others.
Oh my goodness,
so,
wow.
Anyhow, for whatever.
Beverly Hills.
Well, you can own your own copy of the 3-time Emmy-nominated series Made in Israel. It's featured on our upcoming DVD, Living Under God's Blessing, and it'll be available on May the 16th.
The first openly gay bishop of the Episcopal Church is divorcing his husband. Gene Robinson announced the news in an email to the Diocese of New Hampshire. The couple had been together for 25 years, but were legally married since 2010, when New Hampshire recognized gay marriage. The union created international uproar, and many Episcopalians broke away from the main church. Robinson left his wife and 2 children in 1986 when he declared he was gay. Well, millions of viewers tuned in to watch the first TV broadcast of CBN's Superbook in Cambodia. The Superbook episode, The Last Supper, aired on Palm Sunday, and He Is Risen aired Easter on a popular Cambodian network. Many churches across the country included the viewing of this Easter special in their Sunday school classes. Superbook continues to air each week within the CBN children's program, Super Kids Club. The show hosts discuss a lesson from Superbook, and children are encouraged to go to the Superbook website where they can learn more about the Bible. And you can find out more about what CBN is doing around the world by logging on to cbn.com/international.